Anxiety is tough. It affects a lot of people in a very negative way. A lot of people have a really tough time dealing with it, so much so that they've gone to doctors to get pills to try to help them with this. And I would encourage you to actually, before we actually get into it, is to go off of the pills so that you can confront this on your own accord. Because this is something that we know that the brain changes itself, and that we can go from being a slave to anxiety to being able to manage it so that we can put our focus on being all in order to live our lives our way. Now, the status quo tells you the opposite. The status quo says this is chemical imbalance, you're fucked up, and it's because of your genetics. Well, you might have a predisposition to having this sort of genetic thing that you're more likely to develop these chemicals. But certain amounts of the chemical processes that happen in our body are because of our habits have led us, or because of what our habits have led us to. How often do we think of something that makes that we bring up this anxious sort of feeling from? Okay, and I don't think this is a feeling. This is the fear of not being enough. It's anxiety is just forgetting how to do what you know how to do because you got afraid. You got your main squeeze over there in the corner. You want to go talk to her or him, but you don't know what to say, and you're scared to death. And you finally get up the courage to go and do the walk, to walk over there and say hello. And you get there and you freeze and you don't know what to say because you're afraid that whatever comes out of your mouth isn't going to be enough. So you don't say anything at all. You know how to talk. Why did you forget how to talk in that moment? You know how to talk. You forgot how to do what you know how to do because you're afraid of not being enough, because you're afraid that your words weren't going to be enough to express what you actually wanted to say. Public speaking is the same thing. Playing sports is the same thing. We all have these moments where we get anxious. I get anxious in front of this camera many, many times. I have never gotten less scared being in front of a camera, but you know what I have done is grow my courage, because the more often that I do this, the better I get at it, and the better I get at managing my own fears, managing my own anxiety. Okay? Because I've gone through this checklist so many times, because I've had so many reps over here on this all-in stuff. But I didn't start learning about this stuff until maybe like 26, 27 years old. That means I have 26, 27 years of practicing the wrong way, of practicing a dysfunctional way of doing things. And I've got, I don't know, a few years of practicing them a different way. It's an uphill battle, and it's going to be the same for you too. But anxiety is just forgetting how to do what you know how to do. Batter in the batter's box. I don't know why I'm using this example every time, but I think it's very easy. The batter in the batter's box gets there, sees the third strike go by, knows that he should have swung, wishes that he would have swung, doesn't know why he didn't swing. It's because he got nervous. He got nervous, and he forgot how to swing the bat, even though he swung a bat thousands of times. Okay, that's just the fear of not being enough. We call it anxiety, but it's the fear of not being enough. We call it nervous, but it's just the fear of not being enough. We call this a clinical thing. I don't know, I think, yeah, sure, you can call it a clinical thing, but at the same time, you have the power to change this in your mind. If you hold that anxiety thought in your mind, if you constantly go to this fear of not being enough, and that's your reaction, your response to it is to use anxiety to deal with this and to bottle it all up and to go inner rather than outer. You know, to go internal and hold all this anxiety rather than explode and with anger. If you hold that thought in your head for 18 of the 24 hours of the day, you're probably going to have a lot of problems with anxiety. So much so that your body is going to develop a habit, and it's going to develop this constant anxious moment. But you have control of your mind to a certain extent. Control is the wrong word. You have power within your mind to change that, to confront that anxious thought and start to reframe it. And you can do that through the map. Am I going to be all in, or am I going to be afraid that I'm not enough? Well, I'm feeling a certain amount of anxiety. Okay, well, is that reasonable or unreasonable? Well, it's unreasonable for me to be feeling to be this anxious. Yeah, I have to agree. So, can you do your absolute gut-wrenching best in this moment? Yes, I can, but I'm still a little nervous. I know. Refocus, be all in. Okay, I'm going to be all in, even though I feel nervous as hell, and then I'm going to do it anyway. Because you know what you get on the other side of making that decision that I just went through? You get all this courage, and you do it again, and you get more courage, and then you do it again, and you get more courage. And the more times that you do this, and the more you grow that courage, the more that you're able to manage that anxiety. You might have more anxiety than everybody else, man, you might have a ton more courage than everybody else too. And you might be able to grow and grow and grow that until this is not that big of a deal. Whereas it's like, oh yeah, you used to have tons of anxiety. Well, you still have that anxiety, but now you got so much courage that you can do anything that you want to do because you are powerful. Okay, that's what this all-in stuff is. If you have a lot of anxiety in your life, it's because you're putting your focus on the anxiety. You're putting your focus on the default of the fear of not being enough. Every time you start saying anxiety in your life, acknowledge it. I'm just really nervous. I'm just really anxious. Say, I'm just really scared. Change your words. And when you say scared, you're going to go through that checklist. Well, is this fear reasonable or unreasonable? Am I enough to do my absolute gut-wrenching best in this moment, right here, right now? Yes, I am. Even though that I'm scared, I'm going to do my absolute gut-wrenching best. Even under the circumstances of me feeling nervous, I'm going to do my absolute gut-wrenching best. Okay? That's getting to the all-in side. You're not going to be perfect, but you have to do it over and over and over and over again. I do not feel pity for anybody that has this anxiety thing, but I also want you to be able to conquer it. You can do this. It's very difficult, and it takes a lot of consistent effort and focus and discipline towards doing this, but you can, and you have to. You have to. Your entire life is dependent on it. So this anxiety thing, challenge it. Challenge it over and over and over again.